this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We've got some awards we're going to recognize here later on, but first I'd like to ask Mr. Manning, would you lead us in prayer?
We have some prayer requests tonight, and it's a short list, so if anybody needs to add to it, just let me know, we'll add to it. Let's remember Jeff Hudson, Mr. Barry Smith's father, let's remember him. Down the shoulders, remember that. And Philip Coffey is his wife is one of our bus monitors. He has stage 4 cancer. Let's remember him. And a dear friend of mine, Mr. Paul Davis, let's remember him in our prayer. Has anybody got anything else you want to add to this?
My wife's has her father's mother died in the funeral tomorrow.
Marty's wife.
Did we have a little kid get hurt Union Heights today?
Mercedes.
Yeah, I don't think it was life threatening, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Almost like-
And then I don't know who was in the wreck out before, but we remember them, it was a bad wreck up that way. Didn't have any personnel in it, but Forks River wreck.
Around Grand Highway, I believe.
Mercedes.
Anybody else got anything to add to it? If not, let's go. For our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we want to thank you for the opportunity, Lord, Heavenly Father, to come back. Lord, Heavenly Father, help this board, Lord, to make wise decisions, Lord, that impact our students and our faculties and our staff, Lord, Heavenly Father. We want to pray for every one of these prayer requests, Lord, that went up. You know the needs of each and every one of them, Lord, Heavenly Father. Touch the families, Lord, and touch the lives, Lord, Heavenly Father, Lord, and let them give you the praise and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing on the agenda tonight is awards and recognitions, and I believe we need to turn that over to Mr. Smith and let him say a few things about Forks River, Gornsville Elementary and Gornsville High School, and also a donation that we got from Pilot Service Stations.
Well, first of all, I want to collectively talk about these three. It is an unbelievable accomplishment to do this. It's just not something to sit here and blow smoke and talk about it. It's really, you principals know what you've done and the things it's took to get there. It's unbelievable because we're just about that close as a whole county. And hopefully our goal next year is to be there in the exemplary system. But for you guys to do that, and I think you took on what we said when we started a few years back. People kind of raised their eyebrows when we said, you know, I'm not worried about test scores. I'm worried about loving the children, supporting you guys, the central office, and you doing the same, putting good people in place, and I think that system shows it works. Because if you do those things, if you love the children first, everything else will fall in place. And in many situations, we are there, because of the hectic, the lifestyles that we live, we spend more time with the children than parents get to, good parents that want to be because they're working, and so we're making such a direct impact on the children's lives. But this is a total team effort. It obviously starts with the students and the parents, fantastic teachers. You administrators sitting out there are top notch, and we've got a fantastic board that supports that and lets that happen. So from me, I'm like a proud daddy. I can't be more happier to be sitting here and say that you're my staff and my principals. I just want you to know that. And we're going to do something for you each individually. We're going to ask the board members to participate. We're going to feed them all. We'll try to send out invitations when we get it solidified. I think y'all chose where you want to, so we got that catered coming to you, and we want you to enjoy that. But that's a very, very small token for the amount of work. And I can't tell you, I could talk all night about it, but and I'd like, you know, if each one of you would like to say a little something about your staff and your school and the adversity you've overcome and the things it's took to get there, I think it would be encouraging, but that's up to you. But I just want to say thank you for me in the central office. I appreciate it, and I'm sure I'm speaking for the board and how proud they are of you also. So thank you. Miss Leslie, would you like to go from Forks River first? Just get it over with. 30 minutes or less.
How about 30 seconds now? I am extremely proud of all of our kiddos at Forks River, and my staff is amazing. They're like a second family to me. I love all of them, and they have worked so hard through a pandemic and absences and sickness, and just worked through that like it was nothing and just kept on going. And we finally got to a school year that was more normal, and all their hard work is finally paying off. And I'm just so proud of all of them. That's all I can say. Is I'm like, if he's the proud daddy, I'll be their proud mommy, because I'm so proud of my staff and all my kids.
Mr. Lewis, being their school, would you like?
Absolutely. Ms. Pope, for my part, of course, you and I have already had a squeezing conversation and everything else when this got announced, but, you know, that, to me, is nothing short of amazing, what we've accomplished at Forks River, and not just Forks River, but all these other schools as well. But I just really admire your dedication and appreciate what you do every day. I know that you go in as administrator, treating everybody equally. I know that you love every child up there, and that's a comforting thing to have in the back of your mind all the time, to know that you've got somebody guiding the ship, so to speak, that will do things that way. And I'm very, very proud of all of your efforts, and every single person that works up there, regardless of what their role is. I'm just proud of them. It's a special place in my heart. I like this recognition, kind of shows it's a special place, I like that a little bit too, but I'm proud of you, and I'm so grateful for what you do for all of our children. I really am. Thank you.
Ms. Rachel, would you like to go next? Or Scott, you might want to say something too.
He's got a lot to say. I kind of want to echo what Leslie said. Coming off of a pandemic, it was very stressful for everybody involved. I know as well as some of you guys have gotten a lot of calls. The teachers have been stressed, but you got us back in there where students could come every day and learn, and I think it's obvious that the work has paid off, and that's what I kept telling my teachers last year. They were stressed and wanting to do the best for their kids, and I said, I promise you they're learning, and again, it paid off. I know many of you can drive by, not just my building, but lots of buildings. They're there on weekends, they're there at night. I have teachers that beat me to school every morning because they can't stay at night. It's not because I ask them to or you all expect them to. It's because they want what's best for their kids in Smith County. And I know that lots of teachers do that in all the schools. But like Mr. Smith said, Coach Clemens and I, when we stepped into our roles, we told our teachers, the first part comes down to these kids, and we're going to love them. And Mr. Smith told us this. It stood out to me in one of our principals meetings. He said, we don't have to be a reward school if the kids don't feel loved and safe in our schools. All right? And that is mine and Coach Clemens' motto. Leslie and I talk a lot. We feel the same way. And I'm proud of our teachers. I was proud for them, for our students, for our parents, for all the work that they have collectively put forward. But most of all, I'm proud for our community because it's been a downtime, and this is something that we can be proud of. So I want to thank you guys for your support. And if you ever need anything, please let me know. You're welcome at Gordonsville Elementary. Thank you.
Mr. Manning or Mr. McCabe, would y'all like? So,
Well,
Oh, can I say one more thing? I'm
One
so
more
sorry.
thing.
I forgot something. I knew I should have written it down. I also want to say thank you to New Middleton Elementary. They are our feeder school, and they start the groundwork coming to us. And we cannot do what we do without them. So I don't want to leave them out in that, and I apologize for interrupting Mr. Tommy, but I did want to. They have a great faculty and staff as well, administrators, literacy leaders, even down to, in our buildings, the custodians. They are also showing love to our kids. Our cafeteria workers, notice those who seem hungry or want some extra food. So it's not just us or the teacher, it's everybody. So I wanted to recognize them as well.
Yeah, I'm like Mr. Lewis, I'm very happy and very proud. Of course, I get a double dose out of it. So I get both schools, and I'm happy for the teachers and faculty and staff at Warrensville Elementary for what they're doing. And I think you've hit it on the head. Kids want to be loved. It's like that, I know, especially in the school system, but the kids like to be shown that they're loved and cared for, and I think that starts a good building foundation with you too. And thanks, Warrensville Elementary, and for all y'all's hard work, and I'm real proud of it.
I'd like to say thank you too, and I know that a lot of our teachers go unrecognized, and maybe we can do a better job of that as a board, but thank you for what you do. All of our students and teachers and principals, they do a good job.
Mr. Baden, I know you've got a game to get to, and we'll try to get you
Well,
going, but we want you to get some recognition.
Well, I'm gonna echo what these two ladies have said. It's not about us. It's about our teachers and our staff, our cooks, our custodians. We're all a team. Warrensville High School, we just asked not to be the weakest link in the chain. And our teachers took that as a challenge. They work extremely hard. They don't get recognized enough for what you do. We all know that. It's kind of one of those things where, you're a public servant, you go know that going in, but they work hard everywhere. And I'd like to, these two ladies and New Milton School is the foundation of probably 98, 99% of our students that come to Warrensville High School. So I think you can see between New Milton School, Warrensville Elementary School, and Forks River, they play a huge role in the success that we have at Warrensville High School, because those kids don't get a good foundation once they get into the high school setting. They're way behind. But we really appreciate all the support we get from Mr. Smith. Have to make some tough decisions sometimes, and the school board does, and we all do it with the kids in mind when we have to make those decisions. So we appreciate the support we get from you guys, or I do, and I think I can echo that from all the principals in Smith County School System.
And I'd like to add to this just didn't luck up and happen, because most of these in here are plotting, and not in a bad way. Shane's calling me all the time, can I move this teacher here? Will you please give me this? And no, I can't. Well, Rachel, and that, it's been a lot of schematics. I look at the turnover that you've had at Forks River, the way you've not necessarily turned people over, but you've moved them around to your strengths and weaknesses. There's an old saying, and I think some of these schools are, a lot of times on the weekends we're out mowing and different things. We can't even get into some of these places to mow because the cars are there. And I'm like, wow, and there's no saying, what's the difference between a warrior and a soldier? Soldier gets paid, the H form gets checked, a warrior fights the heart. And I think every time I said, your teacher contract's $7.45 to $3.15. But yours parking lot ain't running over you to get out. Well, you go to some places, other counties, $3.15, they're in the car, and that's what the results are gonna be. But they're taking self-pride and they're loving the children. And let me comment, I know you won't listen to me speak, but one thing about safe is not just afraid of the violence, it's a safety is they feel like they got somebody to talk to that loves them and something to eat. As basic as that sounds. And so I appreciate you guys taking on my philosophy, and I think it's working. I want it to work, and it all starts with these 8 guys right here giving us support to do that. So it's a total team effort. Thank you, guys.
And I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Baden, and faculty and staff too, for Warrensville High School coming here too, and appreciate all the work you did. I'm very proud of y'all also.
And again, I'm very proud of them. I know I asked that the board members from their district to talk, but we're all in the one district, as far as I'm concerned. Whatever happens at Forks River or Warrensville Elementary, that happens to all of us. I mean, every one of us as a board member. So when
It's a team effort.
it's a team effort, you're right. And I'd like more, like to emphasize that when we got a problem, if it's in New Middleton, we all need to look at it. I mean, I know that's in Mr. McCaleb's district, but as far as I'm concerned, it's my problem, not his or anybody else. If they call me, I think it needs to be addressed from all board members, not just that particular person. And at this time, if anyone else would like to say anything, you're welcome.
I just thank all of you for what you did.
Anything but else?
I think they've covered it all.
Okay. Thank y'all for all being here. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Got one more.
Rachel, I'd like for you to elaborate. We can't pilot, again, it goes back to the community support we have in this county. It just happens to be you're the lucky beneficiary right now.
I am.
But would you explain to them like the $10,000 we got and how you're gonna put it to work?
Yes. So back last year, Miss Bonnie contacted all of us and started letting us know what Chromebooks would start to, their licenses start to expire. And I almost began to panic because Coach Vaden and Miss Angel had started back years ago trying to get us to a one-to-one school. And they did that. We've been keeping that up. But when she told us almost 200 Chromebooks were fixing to expire, I went into a state of panic because I knew my teachers would panic and then my kids wouldn't have the access to the technology like they are used to having. So luckily, with some resources from central office and put me in touch with Pilot, we got in touch with each other. I answered some questions for them, and they gladly, when I told them we needed $10,000 to buy Chromebooks, they gave it to us. So Pilot has always been really good if we're doing fundraisers or different things for our school to help our community. And so they really came in big for us. So I just heard that we will be purchasing those pretty soon, hopefully. So that will get us closer to being where our students will have the programs that they need and whatnot. And I just am so appreciative of them helping us out. They're a great group of people. We went and met with them.
Fantastic, weren't they?
The way that they interacted with their staff, and so it inspired me with my faculty and staff, so they're a great company.
Ms. Shoulders.
Yes.
You think we can get a plaque recognition for that, for that?
What, sir?
Get a plaque for recognition for the pilot for the truck stop?
Yeah, I don't see it to be a problem with that.
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
something to
That's
present.
a great
that's a
idea.
substantial
Great idea.
donation, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Great idea. Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Again, thank y'all for being here. Let's go on to our consent items. Like I say, I hope you've all had a chance to look at your board packet. Before, does anybody want to pull these for a vote on? Not, do I have a motion to consent items?
So moved.
Mr. Apple. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's get down to superintendent actions. Mr. Smith, I'll let you, if anything you would like to add to that, or
No, if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. It's just standard, pretty much a month.
anyone got any questions or anything, not, we'll go on to new business. Policy amendment 4210, credit recovery. I don't guess I need to read that, but you've all had a chance to look at it. Do I have a motion?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Mr. Jones. Any discussion? I would like to do a roll call on this, please. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCaleb?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, next item is a policy amendment 4.603, promotion and retention. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve and, for a first reading, and then have, Mr. Winkler look into what I brought up.
Mr. Glover had some questions on this policy as a result of some changes in state law. Passing it on first reading is just that. You have to
Okay.
pass it on two, so
Okay,
it'll be no problem.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Glover, Mr. Manning. Okay, let's do a roll call on that. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCallum?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Approval for school fees at Gornsville High School. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call on that one. Excuse me, do we have any discussion before we go any further? None? Okay, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCallum?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Bid approval for diesel fuel. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Second.
Mr. Jones? Any more discussion? Not roll call. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCallum?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Item D is bid approval for the Chromebook technology. Do I have a motion? Second.
Second.
Mr. Apple. Any discussion? If not, roll call. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCallum?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Request to make school level purchases using Title I funds for the Acer Chromebooks and management console licenses. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Glover. Second.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? If not, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Apple?
Yes.
Mr. McCallum?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Item G, Smith County Student Disciplinary Hearing Authority. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Manning. Mr. Manning.
Second.
And, Mr. Glover. Do I have any discussion on this? If not, we don't need a roll call on this one. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? H, board retreat date. If you'll notice, we got down to two, January 17th and March 21st. We need to pick one of those.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Spring break? Does it fall around that March 21st?
I'll pull it up for you.
I think it's later than that, but
A week later?
I think.
First week of April.
What's everybody's feelings on these dates?
I think we've got a good chance of being snowed out in January. Almanac don't look real good.
Then we've got March. Do we need to come up with something tonight on which one where we can tell the SBA what we like to do?
Weekend.
Spring break is the last week.
I'd like to make a motion, we do it in March.
Yeah. Okay, I have a motion that we're gonna do it in March the 21st. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
We got a second. All in favor? Opposed? March 21st.
We don't want to go against the almanac.
No. Or the woodworms. Okay, next item on the agenda will be discussions, and I think, Mr. Smith is gonna talk about this Bush Garage property in just a little bit.
We had just been asked, that's a board decision, just like any personal property, basically, that you have to make a decision, don't have to do anything. The church had asked me if we would consider selling it, it's just point, I don't have the exact, but it gave me about 3/4 of an acre or something in it, I can't remember, in that building. I told him I'd bring it in front of you, I guess today would just be whether you wanna make a decision, yes or no. If it's no, it'd fail right here. If it's yes, and you give me some stipulations, I guess, to see what you think the property value was worth through real estate agents and appraisers, that kind of thing. So,
This was brought up before, in the past,
yeah, that's the reason we didn't put it on the proper,
yeah.
yeah.
And, I wanted to see the property lines, and I've never seen the property.
But yeah, and I think the big thing though is decide whether you want to, if it's something you want to pursue, then we'll get all that put together.
Do we even know what it even costs to build us another building over here?
We got one, estimate. And that's all.
It's gotta be up.
Yeah, since they build
gotta be
material
up.
high right now.
My personal opinion on it is that we need to wait on it for the simple reason that things are so high. I feel like that we could probably, I don't know what property will do down the road, nobody knows. But I feel like that if we wait a while, that as far as building a building, we could get it a whole lot cheaper and maybe a whole lot more building if we kind of waited, and not done that right now.
Is this the whole property or a piece of the property?
Well, there's actually two pieces. I mean, there's the bus garage itself, and then there's a piece of property kind of sits in the middle of it. Then there's another piece between that house and the church. And that building's, I think, the church just want to know, I think it's been recently acquired by the Catholic Church organization.
That's the old bus garage.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the one they use.
The old one, it's the one.
They use for
Yeah.
storage.
It's where we store, we use it now to store, papers and paper towels, supplies, and that kind of thing.
My only question was the roadway that goes beside it is part of that property, in my belief.
It is.
And if we sold that property, then we'd be losing our roadway to the backside of that bus garage.
Unless you retain an easement for that.
Yeah, there's an easement that would be,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, my opinion right now is, as high as it costs to build something right now, I think you ought to just sit on it and hang on to it for right now. Not saying that somewhere down the road.
Well, this, it's not something, it's just something they asked us to bring, and I did, and it didn't matter. That's what, it's our property.
I mean, that's my.
I think set it high, selling the money, might go down and build one.
I think it'd be fair just to get I'd like to see a picture of the property, Rick.
Well, now, you can go down.
And we'll get that out of the way.
I mean, that's no problem.
I didn't know
for you to
nothing.
picture it. I mean, that's
We'll
not-
pull that, we'll try to pull that for you either way, just so.
But that's my opinion on it, and, yes, sir.
And to Mr. Glover's point and Mr. Caleb's, the tax maps can show you the picture that you need, but that's not a substitute for a survey.
Yeah.
And I don't see how the board could ever transfer this property without one. Every surveyor I know right now is about 6 months out.
I think that's kind of what I'm asking, Jamie, if they want to sell it, then at that point, we'd have to proceed through all that. and then-
Yes, sir.
But if there's not, there's no sense in doing that, we're fine the way it is, so.
Correct, correct. But you would have to have.
You can always
surveys.
change your mind. Absolutely.
Which is why.
You can always change your mind.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So I think the consensus of the board is we're going to just hold off for now,
Yeah.
and then we'll look at it again down the road. As David said, we can change our mind down the road and do something different, so. So that's a consensus of the board, it's just, it's just not for sale at the moment.
I'll let them know.
Now, the next thing on discussion here is possible bus route options. I'd like to make one comment on this. I had a gentleman call me today about this, and I don't know how the rumor had got out, but he was under the assumption that we might start canceling routes. Now, Mr. Smith and I have never discussed canceling anything. Now, you had discussed maybe somewhere down the road, we may have to put a designated spot for pickup and drop off. But I'll let you go ahead now. I just wanted to clarify that for anybody that had
Well,
the assumption.
the reason I put this on there, because I feel like you guys are probably, if you're not getting calls, you're probably going to, okay? First of all, there's a misperception. You do not have to legally run bus routes, okay? But if you didn't, you'd probably kill your ADA, your average daily attendance, which are based on your payoff of, so. But it is getting, we're not the only people that are short on bus drivers. They're short in every county around us, they've got signs. I see you guys grinning every county y'all drive through, got them. I think Channel 4 done a special one, was it Cheatham County last week? I was in Kentucky and Georgia both, and they had signs, so it's across the country. It's just hard to find anything right now, not just bus drivers, but I wanted you to understand, and I was hoping she's gonna get back off the route in time to explain what we've been talking about. We're hoping she's gonna get some drivers back. We are, working on some recruitment with possible other staff, let them be able to do both. But, there's two options that's probably gonna happen if something don't change. You know, back when I went to school, that's been a long time ago now, but we run double routes. You know, if your child still can get home, you know, they can get their homework done, but you may have to run a route at 3 and the bus driver turn back and do the secondary route. You know, that's still an option for a parent, not to have to get their child and get them home safe. And then the second option is he may have to start, we're probably running some roads that's pretty iffy if the state DOT, TDOT saying some of the places we're going. Anyway, we're probably gonna look at some centralized, condensed bus routes. They might drop them instead of going down some of these little roads, we might have to drop them at a central location, you know. You still gotta stay within some parameters within, like a child can't build a bus more than an hour and a half, for example, one way. So we may have to look at condensing some things if things don't get better. But I just wanted you guys to know that she's working, you know, Miss Diane, we got a lot of hard workers, but she works as hard as anybody that we've got on staff. And she's worked herself to death about this. And I just wanted you guys to know what she's looking at, what's going on, in case you get lost. Yes, sir.
Our question, are we managing all of our routes right now?
Are we what?
Are we managing all of our routes right now?
We are
we
right now.
making
She has, when you say closed down routes, she's shut down. She's not closed routes down, she's lost drivers and had to put more on the buses, if that makes sense.
No, I
But right
understand.
now, we've not closed, to my knowledge, any roads or routes down. But we are about 6 drivers down or more. And she, right now, she's about to the max.
You know, I was talking to a man today in my district as well about this, and to his credit, I believe that she has done an excellent job. But also, I think we're almost at a point, if she's done such a good job of this, that the ship might be sinking a little bit, and we're not aware of it, because we're here and it's still being covered, but it might be next month, because I've talked to a principal yesterday about it, and Mr. Fry, but we was talking about these routes and things as that, but is it my understanding we're losing some more drivers right now as we speak, is that correct?
Well, you got one one, for example, that's going back into teaching to help
That's
out, but
right.
they're coming back. You got one that's on an injury that's coming back. We've got a couple of teacher options that we hope she's gonna be able to recruit. So, you know, it's,
But if we're at that, are we at that final
yeah, absolutely,
line?
but
Are we at-
everybody is, Mr. Everybody that's, it's a,
How many bus drivers we got?
we had 34 at one time, we've done about 5, say she's down around 20, not counting subs and people filling in now. Now, like Tim, she worked, you know, in a good way, how we've had this discussion, she wears him out, trying to get him. Shane helps some, her volleyball coach over Warrensville, Coach Leslie, we've got several that fill in and help, you know, help her throughout. And like I said, she's got some that's coming back, you know.
So the pay that they're receiving is not, I mean, it's not very good pay. I mean.
Well, the last survey we done, it was above the average for their area.
Well, and I'm glad of that.
Yeah, but,
But
you know.
this used to be back when we was in school, me and you graduated the same year. I remember, and Tommy knows, and most of these bus drivers were farmers. They did it for extra income, you know, that just helped out. But, you know, that generation has passed, and I think the only way you're gonna address the problem is just like anything else. You're gonna have to show some people some money, maybe some benefits, because I know we don't have to provide a school bus service. I know that. But it's almost like we're forgetting, if you don't get kids to school, we don't need a school. I mean, kids have gotta get to school, Tom. And if we gotta spend some money, I think we need to spend some money. I mean, I think the county, we spend money in places and I don't see, that's a very important job in it. You know, as a CDL owner, holder myself, I don't know if I could do that, Barry.
It's our job.
You think you could do that with
Oh, I've done it.
30 kids hollering and screaming back there?
I've done it.
I really, driving the bus is no problem, but.
It's a moving classroom, is what it is.
Putting up with the, yeah. So
It
really,
is, it's a
I think,
moving classroom.
Ms. Shoulders, I think we need to get a little aggressive on trying to really help Miss Diane down there in that office and do something to show her. I know we are behind her, everybody here, but you know, we need to put some actions behind this talk, and show her that and show these teachers and students that we want to get those students there. Because this parent told me, he said, I'd have no way getting my kid home if that school bus don't run. And you know, I was in that situation when I rode a bus, when Mom didn't have one vehicle, my dad drove it, and if it hadn't been for a bus, I wouldn't have got home in the afternoon. So I just think we need to really get after this and try to change it, you know.
Now, I know there's been a couple of things, I know I've had somebody approach me about that maybe we was running, maybe taking them out at 12, like on Friday, because that bus was gonna have to run a football route. And parents said that they were concerned that their child wasn't getting a full education. Well, my response to that is, we're doing what we have to do, and if the parent is that concerned about the child not getting the education, the child needs to stay at school and then make arrangements to pick them up at 3 o'clock. You know, on those days that we have like that, because, you know, that's just,
And that shouldn't be a daily occurrence.
and that's not a daily occurrence.
Football
Maybe-
team's going to East Tennessee.
see, or, you know, things
One route.
like that, but, you know, that can be corrected by the parent picking the child up. One other thing, maybe it been, you had said somebody that kicked around maybe, you know, going, commercial with it and,
Mr. McCallum had asked you
yeah,
that.
about doing that. I would not vote for that in any shape, form, or fashion. Would I ever do that? Because you remember what happened in Chattanooga, got all those children killed.
But that was wasn't that on a charter bus though, Ricky?
No, it was, Jamie, I'd asked you to research it sometime back, and you could elaborate better than I could, but when it's private, I don't know how they get around. To me, it looks like they have to do the same, but they don't. Someone goes in the background and,
Right now, you control the safety, security, background checks, has to comply with yours. Obviously, if you entered into a contract, or you could have them, force them to follow board policy, but that's like any other contractor, you would have to ensure that that got done. It would almost be impossible to know that. That's just kind of the point in time your children are probably their most vulnerable in many ways when they're on a school bus like that, because there's no witnesses, not a lot of adult supervision aside from that one driver. And right now, you also control buses themselves, the inspections that get done each year, and those types of things. You ensure that the buses are mechanically sound, and that type of thing. You would theoretically be giving all that up under a contract situation.
You know, someone told me
Somebody else
today, Ricky, that these kids are getting on these double route buses in Lawrenceville around 1:30 in the afternoon. I don't know if that's true.
1:30?
That's what I was told.
I don't believe so.
The only
I
time
decided,
that
I
they
decided to
I don't know.
no, there wouldn't even be, there's not even buses in the,
I decided to sit in the parking lot one day and watch the traffic back up one afternoon, just to see if it backed up at 2:30 in the afternoon. There's no school bus leaving at 1:30.
So what time do you think that bus is leaving on the double route? Same
the
time?
double routes wouldn't be any earlier, so the teacher shouldn't release them any earlier.
So that bus is coming, making a route,
Yeah,
coming
they'll
back
make the
and
route and then
picking
come.
up again?
Yeah, and that's what, and another thing that I didn't have on my list that it came up, and I don't know enough about it to say, but some schools are staggered, some systems. You know, they might send, they're not, I want to make this clear, this is not, if I start getting phone calls, you know, it's just something we're talking, they've kicked around. But for example, you might have school A that started school at 7 and got done at 2, and that released those buses so that they could get back on schedule with the high schools, for example. You know, you just have to look at a staggered And that's doable, and that way a driver could make a lot more money too, obviously, because they'd be doubling the route, tripling.
Wilson County is staggered.
Yeah, they are.
Well, Wilson Central.
I think that's actually-
45.
I think through your family, that my wife had told them about a school down there, and I was actually trying to research, I was gonna talk to Mr. Luttrell about it.
Yeah, but Wilson County is staggered because they don't have enough bus drivers.
And it's a good idea if you could figure the schedule out, you know, you could, you would have the drivers could make more money, the ones that wanted to. You utilize your machinery that we had better.
If you was to get aggressive and, I'm not asking a hypothetical question, if you was gonna get aggressive and say, all right, we're gonna give a real pay increase for drivers, is there money in our budget, is there money we can use without?
Well,
Is there
I
money
think-
that we can get out of it?
Tracy and I had the conversation today about this specific thing. You're not just affecting one department. I remember Mr. Lewis years ago, I wouldn't say we had an argument, we had a lot of discussions because we had a lot of respect for each other. And I said, and it made sense till I sat in this seat. I said, why can't I give a big raise back here in my department? I've got the money. And he said, Barry, you're not affecting just your department. When you give it there, you gotta do it across the board. So if you're paying, in theory, somebody that's working 3 hours a day, an exorbitant amount, you're gonna have to raise cooks, EAs. It's not gonna affect one string, you're pulling the whole thing, so that's
So
a
there's
choice of the board.
I'm not asking for a way around it, I'm not even implying
But
that.
you'd almost have to be fair. Is it, you know,
You see, I mean, talking about that right there, I mean, is there a way to make the school bus employees a different, I mean, are they a county employee just like us as we're voted in, you know, are they county employees with not full benefits?
no, because they're part-time
Part-time employees.
employees.
So how could we, if you added benefits, would that be giving them a raise per se that we'd have to give everybody, or is that a way that,
Well, I don't, what type of benefits?
you know, insurance is a big deal nowadays.
It is, and I'm not sure that your part-time would qualify under.
Is it so many hours a week that is that the qualification, you think?
I believe so, yes, sir. I'm not gonna say I know for sure.
Tracy can have 30 hours a week.
30 hours a week.
So they're not making 30 hours a week.
No, they couldn't legally on pay, you know, unless they were doing something else, because you can only drive considered one way an hour and a half. So really on paper, you can't show that you'd be, in my opinion, that she's working more than 3 hours.
They're probably about half that, okay?
About 15 hours a week,
Yeah, max.
So in theory, there's nothing you can do to address it this year and put a blitz. I say let's put a blitz on after the first year and try to give some rate. I know we did advertise.
I mean, that's a board, you could do whatever if you want to, that's, but
Is it legal to do that? Get to have a, well, I just thought we said we couldn't give them a raise because.
you,
have to
no, you can
everybody a
give them,
raise.
but I'm just saying, in theory, you got 3 boys, you give one of them a new truck, you better buy the other 2 one.
You might open up a Pandora's box.
There's not
Absolutely.
a,
Absolutely.
there's not a legal impediment to that, I don't think is what they're saying.
No, there's not- it's not
We can
illegal.
do that, but
Okay,
it's just a practical concern with
Okay.
your other staff.
What about that advertising money?
you did.
It all went, it's all going back, divided up to them, it goes back to them as bonus, yep.
To the existing pool
Yeah,
that's there.
And I don't know, I can get you the exact number on that, I don't know what it ended up on the division.
What do you, I mean, I was told, what do you think they make a day on that route? Do you know, do you know, Ricky, what they're making?
I did, Mark, I know.
If it's true what
I'll
I was
get it.
told, it was I don't see how that we got, who we got, if you want to know the truth. I was told it was $66 a day, for
That
the
would-
evening and the morning, afternoon route.
That'd probably be close, but,
And not being nothing but professional, but I think that's their problem.
You mow yard, make it look
Excuse me,
You mow 1 yard, make it look
tell them that. He said you can mow 1 yard and make that kind of money. And hey, them teachers, them bus drivers there, a lot of them, they're there the same reason them teachers are there and the reason we're here. You got a heart for this kid in the school system, you want to do the right thing. If we're really going to get some bus drivers, we're either going to have to give them some benefits or some money. And what do you think, Scotty?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I also see their side of it. If we give it them, then we have to do something with the cafeteria staff and things like that to show equality across the board. One thing I was listening to that was kind of interesting to me, if money, now, let's just say that bottom line of the problem is money, this staggered schedule that Barry and Tommy was talking about, that would allow them to make a greater income. And honestly, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I mean, it's a discussion, not a vote. I mean, I'd be in favor of that before I would be cutting the school bus route and having a drop point. I don't want to do that. That's something, fellas, and of course, I'm old, so, we all know that. But there's something special about a child stepping off the bus at home and getting on the bus at home. Something special about that. Our county's special to be able to do that, and it just means something. That if we went to this alternative schedule like y'all were talking about, and that's interesting to me because it does allow that more time in there. It also allows the drivers to make more money. Just for my part, and again, it's just a discussion, and anybody else's opinion is fine. But I personally, I'd be more in favor of looking at something like that than just cutting a route off somewhere and having a drop point. If we have a drop point, are we gonna create a problem with all the parents on some side road sitting there trying to pick up kids?
There, and you have a drop point.
Or we can't ask sheriff's officer, police department to deploy people all the time, sit there and watch that. So, are we gonna compound some kid get hit because they run out in front of a car that doesn't see them? You know what I mean? It's just
not safe in the days.
It is not. It is not safe. I don't know, but I kind of like that idea that y'all were talking about with this other thing, and it also, if they want to make some more money, I mean, they can give them opportunity to do it. I'm not saying I'm against them having a pay increase at all. But I'm just saying that right now in mid-budget year and all the stuff, well, not mid-budget year, but we've set a budget and we're into the year. Of course, I know the board can adjust that if everybody so chooses to, anytime. But that might be a consideration first. It might solve more than one problem.
Barry, do you think there's you know if there's a more problem area in our county than other with these school bus routes, or you think it's pretty well evenly divided, the routes?
Are you saying the routes?
Well, yeah.
Well, I will say this, Tim and I had a conversation this morning, now it's probably more evenly just for the fact, Marty, the bags are full, like everybody's had to pick it up and make it work, but, when I first came down here years ago, because I was certain routes, I'd help her out, because I was out quicker than I was. If I'd been here for several years, it kind of grandfathered in, they'd earned it, and, you might run the town route, for example, and you might be done 20, 30 minutes, and then another guy's running his hour and a half, and it takes him 30 minutes to get back in, so it's very unfair. You know what I mean? But to pay straight $66, $75, whatever, you know what I mean?
So it is a flat rate.
Yeah, so that's the bad thing about a flat rate. Right now, I'd say, well, you tell me it's pretty fair, because everybody's having to pick it up. Now, there's always going to be routes that's easier and better, I mean, just the way it falls, but I do think if you could stagger it, the people that wanted to make more would make more, you know what I mean? If they went to work, and it would help us out, and that's something I was taking notes on to find out more about, and that's more fair, because obviously I'm doing twice as much, I ought to make twice.
I think so.
Mr. Smith, isn't Richard Anderson over the buses and?
He was, he retired about 2 years ago, I didn't realize it either, I called him, he and I've been a good friend, I called him this winter, I don't know if that's turned out school, or
Well, they still might have some insight, because I know Wilson County for a fact.
Yeah, I can talk to Mr. Luttrell, the director down there too, see what they're doing, how they're doing it. But that just come up after we put this on here. Leslie had talked to, I think your sister, your nephew had worked down there and was talking about the staggered routes. And it made a lot of sense, because a lot of systems have done that, some people probably love it. They said that actually it worked better. At first, I thought it didn't make sense, but said the elementaries really liked it in a lot of situations, because parents could drop them off on the way to school, because we get that complaint all the time, we don't open the doors at 7:20. and said parents loved it because they could go and get their children in school at the elementary level. When we're older children, students had an opportunity, most of them drive or ride to somebody anyway. So it's something we can start looking at, for sure.
So are all these buses radio dispatch?
Yes, sir. And if you would like me to, I would be happy to do another study for the area to see what the pay scale is, because it could have changed. The one we used is about 2 year old, so.
So
I'd be
Rick,
happy
you're
to do
saying this to reaffirm there's not gonna be we're not gonna quit no routes?
That's never been.
I heard that,
No, not
I
necessarily.
heard that rumor too.
When you're saying quit, they're condensed. I mean, like, in other words, we're not just gonna shut off going to Brush Creek, you know what I mean? You know,
That's never been
it
discussed.
might make the route longer, but that, right now, to my knowledge, every road's still running, they might be later getting there, it might be 15 minutes later, because there's more people on the bus, you know what I mean? But we still gotta adhere to that hour and a half rule by law, you can't be, you know.
And as a law enforcement officer, I just want, I think the drop-off points is not a good idea. You start dropping kids off, who's picking them up? Is the wrong parent picking them up? Are we gonna ask the bus drivers to keep that record of who's picking these kids up? And then with child trafficking, the way it is these days, it's not good.
I don't like it, but they are doing it, that doesn't make it right, I mean, it's almost like they are doing
I
it.
think we're putting our kids in danger if we do those things.
I agree, and I just don't, we just finished up human trafficking courses again, and, you would think in the third world nations would be the leaders in that arena, but the United States is still the highest ranking human trafficking country in the world.
And I-40 is one of the worst, and it goes
Absolutely.
right through us. And
Absolutely.
we start dropping kids off at a drop point, and if nobody's there to pick them up, who's to say,
Is Miss Diane running a route every day now, Barry?
She is, and she don't need to be. I
No.
mean, she needs to be in the office, and, she's on one right now, so she's not here, but, we need to, there's obviously a problem, nobody's
I think
denying
so.
that.
I didn't realize until I heard today, and that.
Could I make a suggestion, just, I think we all kind of know how we feel, but of course, I understand Mr. McCallum was talking about money. Since, Mr. Director, since your study was based on something 2 years ago, could you get us something more recent and maybe present at the next board meeting or something, so we'd have a little bit more updated version of what the pay rate is and kind of know where we're standing with that. And then in the meantime, if you want to explore, the thing y'all talking about splitting up and starting at 7. A lot of people that work in a factory probably appreciate that if you stop and think about it. I mean, of course, I know times change, but like my mother, worked at a shirt factory. Of course, she'd be working 7 o'clock. Me and my brother would be at school at 8. So we walked every day. Of course, then you could do that, neighbors looked out for one another. Now, like Mr. Floater, I wouldn't trust that as far as I could see, but, at school that opened at 7, when my mama had to be at work, she probably dropped us every day.
Right.
It might be a benefit to a lot of people in that circumstance. I don't know.
But while I agree, but to show you a couple of, when I first came down here, she had a list that they would fight for to do trips because they paid so good. Right now, she can't even get nobody as good as that pays. Nobody, like she said, and I don't want to offend anybody, but she said, my drivers my staff's getting older. They don't want to be in Chattanooga tonight at 70-year-old at 12 o'clock bringing a group of children, or York, coming back those roads, and I understand that. And Scotty, as you know, we've got, Montgomery University's made a very good offer to use a driver to go down there, and we ain't had the first bite. We hope we do, and an exorbitant amount of money in it for 4 or 6 hours.
I mean, I'd take it.
And I would too, I don't know that I won't do it.
I didn't know, what are you talking about? I don't.
I'm saying the workforce, Marty, the money's not,
Oh.
you know, we used to have a list that they'd get mad at you because they didn't, I drove my own bus because it saved a lot of money on the girl basketball at $5,000 to $8,000 a year. Well, they were upset because they didn't get to get it. Now, we can't beg them to drive unless you don't have enough drivers that want to drive extra. And the same, like I said, you don't mind me talking about that, do you, Scotty, about what Cumberland has called up here wanting to know at homecoming if we had any drivers that wanted to, do you care if I tell the amount? Because it might be good advertisement.
No, I mean, I don't care a bit what, I mean, nothing.
Have offered homecoming, not to come off that campus down there, if we had a bus driver, 4 to 6 hour job and buy their meals, so it's $300, $250, $300, ain't got the first person wants to do it. You know,
We don't have such a crowd, we'll hunt another CDL driver, I mean, we've been begging somebody for 2 weeks.
and you had the first person, as that show inquired about it.
4 hours work, I mean, good gracious.
So, I mean, part of it's just, you know, there's not a pool of people that wants to do it, I mean.
No, there's not.
Yeah, but it's kind of a part-time job. That's the problem that I see.
Yeah.
It's,
It is.
you know, it's not enough money there to be a full-time job. And like he said, you know, farmers used to do it.
But it's like, and that's part of the dilemma.
Yeah, man, probably could, but I'm just saying.
And that's part of it.
Probably do it.
But that's part of the dilemma, like we were talking about Tracy that day. If you're an educational assistant or a cook that's getting burnt with grease and you're working, you're from taking up for them, not that, listen, I drove a bus. Bus is hard to drive, but it's a moving classroom with no discipline. And you can't see them and they're fighting and they're spitting and slinging and, and you're trying to watch traffic and, I mean, it's stressful. But if you're sitting there as a cook and you're saying, okay, you're paying them that amount for 3 hours on paper. I'm working 8 and getting burnt and they're making twice, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta keep it equal. It's like you said, Joe, it's it's hard to get somebody, you don't pay them as a full-time employee though. And if you can, I don't believe legally give them benefits.
But it's
They
part-time.
don't qualify. They just don't qualify.
Are we offering, training to get their CDLs?
Oh, yeah.
We're paying for it or just offering as a?
Well, I think we're actually reimbursing them for getting it.
Can they come through us and get it? They gotta go to Lebanon or? Cook?
Well, we'll train them here and then, because you gotta go through, like you do a truck, you got official TDOT
Right.
person, you gotta train them and all that, drug tests and all that. And listen, it ain't easy to get. That's the other thing. That is not an easy, that is not easy to do at all. It's not a good situation. Nurse, Miss Diane now.
There she is, yeah.
So, I appreciate y'all talking about this. Unfortunately, Barry has not told you the whole complete truth, probably because I haven't been totally truthful with him, and I just keep covering up. We currently have 2 routes where I have students on the bus for 2 hours.
You got what, 2?
2 hours. We basically sent some letters, told the parents what was going on, and they said rather than keep their kids at school till 4:30 and then run another hour-and-a-half route, if I could double them up and get them to and from, they didn't care. Danny Huff right now is picking up his first students at 5:45.
But that, Diane, I'm gonna stop right there because Jamie's in. By law, that's
By
not
law,
choice
we're
they
as
can make.
legal as can be. I am illegal on 3 different routes right now. I have split and divided. We are down to 1 bus in Forks River that used to have 4 students. We pulled the driver that just resigned, we split her route up, and Danny Huff is running what 4 buses used to do out there at Forks River. He gets to Forks River around 7:30, and then he deadheads in to get all the high schooler students in and the students that are bypassing the school. Linda Langford's route is not even a double route. We have kids on there right in an hour, 40 minutes. Most of the buses, we've changed the route, so if that first student is like the last school, to keep them on that hour-and-a-half, we've changed them around and picking them up at different times, but those drivers are on the buses 4.5 to 5 hours a day. It's not an hour and a half like it used to be. We had routes that used to be 45 minutes long, but it's not. And the bell time would be a great thing, except for right now, our routes are so stretched out, we couldn't get back to the next school in an hour. It would have to be an hour and a half to 2 hour difference.
So what's your feel on your drivers right now? Are they feeling frustrated and used and
Used and abused.
chewed up and?
And I have 7 or 8 every time I say, hey, we need to do this, or hey, we need to do that. The same ones will kick in an offer to do. And we have some that don't, but they have other obligations, other businesses. They can't go out and run the second route. On October 1st, I have 2 routes in Gordonsville. We're not shutting them down, but we're gonna have to go back and pick them up, and they're on opposite ends of the county. One is David Baker's, and he will eventually get back, but we're looking at December or longer. We're looking at having to go out after we drop off the kids and pick them up, so they're gonna be 45 minutes to an hour late for school, and then leave them sit at the school and go back after them at 4:15. And the principals they don't wanna be there till 4:15, 4:30 to wait on kids. So I have been splitting and dividing until I can't split and divide anymore.
So how many buses do you have sitting right now? I mean, that would be, if you could have it, as many drivers you wanted, how many drivers would you have extra right now if we could solve that?
I could have 7 full-time drivers right now to get us back at a normal pace,
Besides what you've got?
besides what we have.
And that number is how many right now you've got?
Right now, I have 19 full-time drivers.
So that's a
And
third,
we
you're off a
are
third
running
then.
24 routes with 19 drivers and whatever substitutes I can sweet talk into running.
So you're down to about a third of a workforce.
Yes, and when I first started back in, over 20 years ago, we had 36 bus routes. So we've gone from 36 to 30, and I thought that was the end of the world, and we have shrunk and shrunk. We have two more drivers leaving, one's a mechanic and a driver, one's taking the teaching job, and then we've got David Baker, he will eventually come back. And there's nobody picking up those pieces.
But while we're not, obviously don't have the drivers we need, but at 36, we probably weren't as efficient as we need to be either. So we
Yeah,
couldn't make it.
that was before my time, and it was a gravy train, so we did switch. And now, some of the Gordonsville routes are shorter, but the buses were full, so we couldn't really make them any longer because they were getting more packed. On the Carthage side, we covered twice the area, so we might run for 35 minutes and only pick up 10 families. And that's part of the issue too. So having people come out of some of these secondary roads that are so awful where the bus barely fits down the road would help us be more efficient and get more students. But like you said, there is no way safe for the parents to sit out there at the end of those little hollers and wait for a bus. So I don't know what the solution is. to
These
that.
drivers that are running double routes, are they taking that bus back to that facility every night?
I have a couple that are going home, but most of the people are bringing them back to the bus lots right now. James Gentry keeps his bus home, he's running a route and a half. Danny Huff keeps his bus at home when he finishes at Forks River. He keeps it up there. There's still 7 or 8 that take them home.
Well, is there a rule that, and I'm for being what helps them, but is there a rule in place that you're supposed to bring them back to the
No,
school
we've always,
facility?
because the route starts out there. James Gentry's route starts a mile from his house. So
Some of
I'm
them
saving a whole lot of fuel by not having him have to come all the way in to drive all the way back to start
Well,
over
that's what I was
again.
going to suggest.
And that's the way all the ones that keep them home, our route ends within a mile or 2 of their house. And some of them even closer than that.
If we can't give them money, we need to give them some kind of perk that helps them do their job and show, I feel like we're at a crisis, and I feel
We are.
ashamed I sort of have
And-
not realized that, and I apologize to you.
Well, and all you gotta do is watch the news, and there are counties that will shut a route down, not permanently, but not have a driver for 2 or 3 days, and they'll just post a thing that this route is closed, and I've been trying not to do that, but by not doing that, I am burning up what help I have.
But I don't
And
think-
or it's me doing it, and I'm not getting my jobs done because I'm on a bus 6 hours a day now running double routes all the time instead of doing my real job.
But did anybody else realize we had a crisis? I don't know if you call this a crisis, but you're off a third of your drivers.
We went to being stressful to bombarded in about a matter of 2 weeks where different things happened.
I know, but look at
I
us
got a
right
question.
now.
Yes.
Are there any kind of incentives that we can give to some of our teachers or coaches that would,
Well,
Possibly
I think that is the pool that we need to target, because we've been very lenient, and again, if you can start late, and it's hard in a core academic to do that, okay? But if the planning periods could be conducive, especially to help one out, if it's things, coaches, things at PE where it's not tested, mandate tested, that's the pool I think that needs to be targeted. Because it would make the world, especially the last 5 years of the retirement, make a big difference in the way they retire, had that much money on
Have we
them.
made an attempt to target them? Have we made?
We have,
progress
but
to that?
we have tried that. She got somebody 2 years ago that way.
Uh-huh.
We personally talked to
We went to
somebody.
the teachers' meeting and had all the information, and Tracy pulled what it changes in their benefit and what it makes, and we get a nibble here and there. I will say, I've had 3 teachers, 2 of them probably got stuck with staying late with the kids, who said, well, if I gotta do this, I might as well drive a bus route. So they might follow through, but even with that,
But most
We
schools
don't have
now
a
have the
full-time
after-school
trainer.
programs too,
Right.
so that's playing in. It's not like we're having to hire, or it's not like the kids are not being watched. We've got the after-school program going on anyway, so we have people that's already there being paid.
Who's fueling them buses for those drivers? Do they have to come to the garage and fuel it themselves?
no, Bobby Peoples brings the Gordonsville buses over and fuels them, and Evelyn Kelly fuels on the Carthage side. The drivers only fuel their own bus if they've taken a really long trip or something and need to top it off in the morning before they go back out.
So I'm just trying to help see if there's something we can help do to shorten their day. Are they on a flat scale pay rate?
Yes, but in addition to the flat rate of being 66 something with the new pay raise, there is a year. So my top drivers top out with 20 plus years experience at $77 a day.
How much?
$77 a day.
Is that because of time of years experience, or is that, what'd you say? How did
Yeah,
they-
is it 20 years or 25 years, Tracy? 20. At 20 years, they top out.
So we could set policy that after 2 years, you get a pay raise, 5 years, couldn't we? I mean, as a
Well,
board.
they do that now. They get a small
So we
yearly
already got
increase.
something, but we
So
can
somebody
increase
who's
it.
been working 10 years is making $69 a day versus $66 a day.
But it's not a big jump, is it? $3 for 10 years?
It's 30, 40 cents a year, just like everything else.
I mean, I think we could,
Can I ask a question?
I think we could give them some money.
Ma'am, and I'm sorry, it has been kind of a long day. How many do you have right now?
I have 19 full-time drivers right now.
Now, is that including the number that you said you thought was coming back?
Well,
Earlier
you've got, I don't, without mentioning names, you've got, what, 3 coming back? You got 1 coming back from teaching, you got 1 coming back from an injury.
One coming back from an injury. I don't
I thought we just discussed the one that's going to Gordonsville High School that was helping Mr. Baden out.
No, he's gone to Wilson County.
Well, why did you fuss on me for using him at the high school then?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Mr. Armstead,
Oh, he's a sub. He's not a full-time driver. He's a sub, yes.
but you're using him all the time.
Yeah, well, he's very limited because he only will drive in the afternoon because of some medical issues that, we all did when we were older. And now that he's teaching again, he's only driving 2 days a week.
So
To help out.
we're gonna land back at 23? Is that what you're saying?
She could tell you, Jack.
Steve is counted in my sub. I have 14 subs and 19 full-time drivers, but the subs are not always available, and those subs are my 3 mechanics, and one of those are leaving, so my 2 mechanics are driving AM. One drives in the morning, one drives at night. I'm driving full-time, and the rest of them, I've got a couple that are not available at all right now. Steve Dowell is on the sub list, but he's still dealing with recovering from his cancer, but he is coming in and driving 1 day a week to help out on a route where that driver has to be out every Monday afternoon because he helps with the court system and stuff in the schools. So I have 14 other people to pull from, but none of them are available full-time. Mr. Towns is very good at usually not just saying, no, let me think about it, I'll do if I can. So I try to only ask him a couple days a week. I know I can't put him on a bus every morning and every afternoon. David Silcox is driving a couple mornings here and there. I know, it's getting there, I'm gonna start begging. So he hates to see my text. It's like, hello, what are you doing this afternoon? David Silcox is trying to drive for me some in the morning, allowable for what his job at the alternative school. But he has a lot of kids and a lot of programs. He does drive a couple afternoons if I'm really, really desperate and helps out. But I can't staff a route with 14 people that are only available here, there, around their other working schedules. So that's the biggest problem.
You ever have these people that inquire and say, with some training or something? I mean, I would be skeptical. It'd be hard to, but it might not be as bad as we think it is after you got to go and doing it, right? Is it,
Yeah, that's possible. Last year, every time I run an ad, the only people that came through and applied never even made it through the preliminary driver, checking their driver's license. DUIs or oodles of speeding tickets. I've not really had any, and I have had several people call me from out of state that are moving to this area or close by, and when I tell them what we pay, they're like, I'm sorry, I make this much now, I can't work for that. I had a lady call me from Vermont the other day, and she started laughing when I told her what we paid. But they do different stuff up there, and it's, I just lost the word I'm thinking of, union and stuff. So they're making $25, $30 an hour because there's a different cost of living. So it's really not and I tried to explain that to her. We have 5 drivers in this area that are working in DeKalb County and Wilson County and better because they're all supposedly making $100 a day or more.
Wow.
I really think we need to go back to our teachers and our coaches and work with them on their pay if we can get incentives for them to do it, because they're the one, that it kind of coexists with their schedules, their day ends when we need those buses to run and their day begins beforehand. So I think we need to, if we could work with this pay of those individuals, they may be interested in doing more routes. Because I remember when I was in school, a lot of those coaches and teachers did that.
So who takes over if you're out on vacation or a sick day? Who takes over the spot? Is anybody, are you taking a vacation or sick day?
They all just call me. I do take vacation, but.
Do we have somebody on staff that would, Barry, that would take care of it?
She's got somebody that she trains to fill in.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we do that staggered deal.
We're gonna look at that too.
If we do
But
that.
guys, while this is a travesty, while we know the situation we're in, this is not unique to Smith County,
I know,
Tennessee.
would it just take half the drive?
Yeah.
It would only take
I
half the drive.
don't, Joe, I don't wanna get much more in depth to understand it, and that works, but I think it's very doable if, you know.
I know,
but
but you wouldn't need near as many drivers.
No. No, if she had drivers that wanted to run double routes, see,
Yeah.
you'd stagger it where they could come back and make it work.
Could I ask a question? Because I know Mr. McCallum is passionate about this, and everybody else wants to do the right thing. Of course, we could stay here till in the morning trying to make some kind of decision, and I don't think that there's one, personally, I don't think there's one we can absolutely make tonight.
Well, and let me interject right there, that's the reason I wanted y'all to see the dilemma that's going on. There couldn't be a decision in that.
There's
But
not.
I want you to see if you
But I
get
understand.
calls and where it's going to.
But here's what I would love to ask, if the rest of the board, and of course, we don't have to vote on this one, but if the rest of the board is satisfied with it, like I say, we could go round and round and round all night and not gain any ground. I'd love to see, updated study on what the pay rate is on the, bus drivers. I think you said the last one was 2 years old, is that right?
2 or 3, and we're going to update it.
Could, do you think you could have that by the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
If we could have that to go with, then I'd like for us to consider looking at this staggered thing that we're talking about. I think that there may be some credence to that, and there may be some parents that would appreciate that more so than, I never really thought about that. There may be some parents that would appreciate that kind of thing. And if you did that, and it literally cut the numbers in half like you're talking about, if that works, then we've got an excess of drivers, not a shortage of drivers.
Right.
But because, of course, if is the biggest two-letter word in English language too, but I'd love to see those things and have something other to actually study about before we try to make any decision. Does anybody else disagree with that? I just need some more information. I can't make a decision, like this. I mean, I see the problem, but.
We can't make
There's
any,
nothing to base a decision on.
There's not. I mean, what are you gonna do?
we can't do anything tonight. Just let him get some information together and,
I do
we'll
appreciate
bring it up.
Caleb's passion about it.
Yeah,
I
right,
think this is
absolutely.
important. Yeah, it's
But
important.
bring up, let this next board meeting, him get the information together, and then we can discuss it more in detail then, of what possibly we can do, so. Any more discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Manning.
Yes, well, Miss Diana showed up, I do have one. The trips out of county on these school buses. We requested that the new buses be took out of this county. 2 weeks ago, there was another tire blown out on a school bus on the
It's
football
only 2
game.
years old.
Was the tire 2-year-old or was it a retread?
It was the original tire, I believe.
Okay, I was gonna say, if the drivers on some of these schools, the coaches that's driving the buses, don't wanna drive the new school buses, let's make sure we keep non-retread tires on the ones that's going outside the county. Because this is, I know 2 instances this year that a tire's blown out, and one of them we had to sell a bus. Now, I don't know if the other one had a retread on it or not, but let's keep good tires on. Even if they get half wore out, maybe we ought to put new tires on the buses that's going outside the county. Because what's gonna happen, I don't think it damages bus. What's gonna happen going down that interstate at 70 miles an hour and the wrong tire blows out and that bus tumbles over and a bunch of students, and I'm passionate throughout the whole county, but I'm really passionate because it's happened on my schools. And I'm glad you said it wasn't a retread, because I was probably going off if it was a retread. Make sure, if they're not wanting to drive these new buses, and there's new buses out there, and I know some of the drivers and coaches don't want it, they got a particular bus they want to drive.
Well, and it's hard because if they're used to a bus, then you're gonna have somebody take a bus they're not familiar with out into Nashville and they're not comfortable with the bus. And then you've got the person who has the bus, assigned to the bus, and you keep jerking away from him and putting in an older one. So typically, the drivers drive their buses on the trips, unless it's a long one, and then we usually switch them over.
Well, I think the ones that we know that goes out, and I'm sure it's not every bus we got in this fleet goes out. I do know there's certain ones that go out. Make sure that the tires are inspected on these buses.
They're
Even if they
inspected
get,
every month.
even if they get half wore out, we put new tires back on these buses. Because I'm gonna tell you, if we have a wreck and this thing turns over, it's gonna be bad.
But I think to make you feel better, Tommy, that's very strict. I mean, they can't tire be on a bus because the way she's inspected, like that one particular brother, my son was on that team. That was to me, one of the most safe, better buses that we had.
Well, and that was one of the older buses, and I tried to get Jonathan to take a newer bus, but they wanted the air conditioning. And I only have air conditioning in sped buses, and I cannot take a regular sped bus off the route from sped students for a ball team to leave at 1 or 2 o'clock to go on game. That's why they were on the bus they were on, and that was Jonathan's choice, so they'd have an air conditioner.
Ms. Diane, and I think from a safety point, and I know but Joe can tell you being a commercial, and me, commercial tires and trucks, these drivers, they need to be, just because they got a tire on there, it's a virgin tire, it's not been recapped. If it has fix a screw up or a bolt up going in a route, then they need to be told to check their tires before they load up and come back this way. Really, seriously. Now, I don't know if you get that done. I try that. But that, Tommy, that's an issue. If nobody's checking the tires but the garage and
They do
mechanics.
it, and they check their tires on a pre-trip every morning, and they're supposed to do a post-it. But you can have a tire in the thing, and, I mean, they can't lift the bus up to spin the tire, so you're not always gonna catch it.
But they are
Yes.
performing that trip.
And by law, they're supposed to do a pre-trip anyway.
about all. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And I know a new tire can just blow out as good as old tire.
It can.
But I
Well, it
just-
was almost two, and it didn't blow out, it was just a big chunk about this long, came right out of the middle of the tire, and we've called Best One to come check it out and see what was going on. I will say that we've had more steering tires blow out, which is way more dangerous, and we don't use a retread on the steering, and never have. We've had 2 retreads, about 10 years apart, fall apart or blow out. So it's a very small amount, but it is still an issue. And we can go to all new tires straight across, but it'll double my tire budget.
And I'm not saying we do that, but I'm just saying this, maybe the trips, we try to take the new buses and make sure there's good tires on the old buses. 'Cause when it happens, I get the phone call, and I don't know what to tell them.
Okay, they got that issue. Let's go on to our annual policy review. I guess you all had a chance to look at the September policy review. If there's any questions on that, if not, we need an executive session. One other thing I'd like to remind you all of, October board meeting will be October the 11th. It's 1 week earlier, kind of fall break. The November board meeting will be November the 15th. So make sure you put that on your calendar also. If no more questions, no more comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?